Today's episode of the Kirk Miller Podcast is, without question, going to be the most unique, random episode you're probably ever going to listen to. There's some of the things I'm going to be sharing today that I really thought, shall I talk about that? Shall I share it? But as I've said from day one, my mission with this podcast is for it to be the most relatable, honest, straight-talking podcast out there. You might have listened to some episodes so far and quickly gathered that I'm clearly a very intense, passionate person about what I do, about getting people in shape, living with confidence, all that sort of stuff. But I'm sure you'll agree, listen to this, that there's no straight line to success. And we've all done certain things in our life that were stupid, random, funny. And as I'm going to share with you today, in today's episode, ultimately they've shaped who you are today. Because one thing I definitely don't want to portray from this podcast is being this invincible figure that might look the part, have a great business, good personal, professional relationships and all that sort of stuff, but has not done things they fucking cringe when they look back on and think, what was I doing? There's a few that are going to shock you. There's quite a few famous people that I've had various dealings with for different reasons, from playing football against certain people, being at certain social engagements with certain like genuine megastars. Looking back when I was making notes for this show, there's some bottlenecks that have certainly been in my past. Okay, and anyone who really knows me, like my friends, like family, even though I'm very intense and go from one extreme to the other, of course. I love being stupid. I believe I'm one of the most down-to-earth people on the planet, especially with my background, as I'll share you in a second. So I want to share with you in this episode of the Kirk Miller Podcast 30 things that you don't know about me. I'm going to chop through them as quickly as possible. Some will elaborate a little bit more if they've got a unique story to them. And then if I feel any of relevant in terms of lessons, life lessons I might have learned from these particular things, then I'll share them with you too. Okay? So let's just shoot straight to it. Some of them start off semi-serious, but I can promise you that they get a bit more interesting from there. So number one is, I was brought up in a council estate in an area called Stoke-Aldermore in Coventry. I had great parents, one younger brother, Stefan, one younger sister, Leonie. Don't regret my upbringing in the slightest. My mum and dad taught me hard work, honesty, always treat and speak to people with respect, and that's at the forte of my character now. So yeah, I absolutely love my upbringing. For sure, it taught me that if you want something, you go and work for it. Number two, age 3, woke up with a rare form of arthritis that kept me in and out of hospital for 3 years. It was a rare form of arthritis, and I had this thing called plaster and parish on my knees. I remember just going back and forth to the hospital, and it's probably why I had really, really skinny legs at the time, because obviously you had a lot of muscle wastage every time you come out of this plaster and parish. And it's probably why now I'm absolutely obsessed with having muscly, strong legs. Okay, and I know I've shared a couple of these in episode 2, I think it was, of the podcast, but if you've not listened to this, the first few of these things you don't know about me, you'll certainly know about me by the end of these 30, all right? But I think it's important that if you are listening to me on this podcast to help you with your mind, your body, the reason these things I'm sharing with you are important is obviously that they've shaped my character and my drive and obsession to obviously help people become better. Okay, so obviously that held me back during those periods from 3 to 6. With obviously sport, running around, playing football, which I love to do, even when I could start literally kicking a ball at the age of like 3 or 4. Number 3, at the age of 6, I got told by a Polish specialist the only sport I'd ever do was swim. I remember as a kid, my mum would take me to swimming lessons, and I never really enjoyed swimming. So when at the age of 6, you've got a Polish specialist telling me because of my knees, the only sport I'd ever be able to do was swim, because obviously it was low impact. You can imagine my heart was turned upside down. And, I might have shared this on a previous episode, but these moments in your life do really shape your character, because I think that moment was when I decided, I'm going to prove him wrong. And I think that's where I get my drive, my determination and my obsession to win and be better and help other people be better, So really it was a blessing. When you get told you can't do something, if you believe in your heart you can, then you keep pressing forward. Number 4, I joined Coventry age 10. I was released age 20. 10 great years at Coventry. Played with some fantastic players, great memories. And I think that period from the age of 10 to 20, and I suppose even when I was first started kicking a ball, really, from the age of 6 or 7, or I remember being in my first team, Whitley Juniors at 7, I think it was. I really believe being in a team environment, especially the culture and the great characters and stuff we had at Coventry, there is no greater lesson or education or qualification in life when it comes to dealing with people. I think nothing prepares you more for dealing with different characters. Some people who are introverted, some people are extroverted, some people who need their ass kissing, some people need to be told they're the best player or person in the world than football. You really need to know how to deal with people. Obviously, it teaches you how to listen. I'm still learning with that, as my missus will tell you. But it teaches you how to listen, especially when you've got managers, the teammates, etc. But as a captain, in pretty much every team I played at when I was growing up, it really did help people's skills. And they were great memories, really good fun times with Coventry. Number 5, as I shared before, I think it was on episode number 2, I turned down Manchester United at 13, which was fucking mental, really, because obviously I was an absolute obsessive Manchester United fan. I was that guy that would watch every game with my dad, my brother, any opportunity I could get to go to a game, I would do it. But I turned them down at the age of 13, as I shared in episode 2 of this podcast, because I took the safe option and signed for Coventry because they guaranteed a professional contract, which obviously I later failed. But turning down Manchester United at 13, that is why I'm so passionate about helping you guys really remove limitations, believe in yourself, and don't let that self-doubt or that fear of not quite being good enough hold you back. Okay, so that was the greatest lesson in life, that you don't take the comfortable option, you lean into discomfort. Number 6, this is where we start to get a little bit more random. I was absolutely obsessed with Jean-Claude Van Damme movies as a kid. One in particular, Bloodsport. I think I watched that movie maybe 200 times, 250 times. I was just obsessed with Van Damme. He was good looking, he was ripped. He'd always seemed to get the best women, the best looking women. And I just thought, give me a piece of that. I wanted a 6-pack from an early age. Clearly didn't have a clue how to get one at that age, but the moment I started learning how to get one, I wanted one. But yeah, I remember always watching Bloodsport, Leon, all these famous Van Damme movies, and then obviously trying to beat my brother up afterwards. We'd watch them, and then obviously I was 2 years older than him, and obviously a bit bigger, so I'd always generally end victorious, for which he still, it still does his head in now. But yeah, absolutely love Van Damme, and I think it's weird how I know obviously he was a bit of a lunatic in his personal life, which good job I didn't hear about that, for a number of years. But I think sometimes your role models, they do definitely influence the things you generally want to learn about and become obsessive about. And thankfully Van Damme, because he was in shape, at least it influenced me wanting to do the same. Number 7, I was equally obsessed with Ryan Giggs. Obviously one of the greatest players that's ever played for Manchester United. But I suppose looking back, this was maybe a slight problem, because obviously I was obsessed with Ryan Giggs at the time, because he was labelled as the next George Best. For any you listeners who are aware of George Best, of course, he's one of the greatest footballers that's ever lived. And Giggs was like his predecessor, and I remember he was the David Beckham at that time. And I just wanted to copy everything he did. I remember he had curly hair. I even wanted curly hair, but that wasn't going to happen. My mum would make sure I had, pretty much a Sonic haircut. I had Jow, same haircut for about 10 years, but I was desperate to have curly hair, but that wasn't going to happen. But more specifically, Ryan Giggs was left-footed. He played left wing, and obviously he was renowned for taking players on, scoring loads of goals. And I was right-footed, but because I was that obsessed with Ryan Giggs, I wanted to play left wing and copy him, but I'm right-footed. So I suppose the plus side with that was, because I was that obsessed, I thought, right, fuck this, I want to be as good as Ryan Giggs with his left foot. So I was just genuinely obsessive. I'd be kicking a ball with my left foot religiously, for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I'd go up the park by myself, taking corners, taking free kicks, just anything I could do to try and replicate what Ryan Giggs did. But looking back, I'm primarily right-footed. So even though I progressed immensely with my football career, obviously I got picked up by Coventry as a left winger, even though I'm right-footed. I was obviously very good with both feet, but obviously once I moved to Coventry, I weren't playing left wing for too long, because clearly if I was going to try and master football to the next level and become professional, you know, I needed to be, I ain't going to do that playing with my left foot. But yeah, just absolutely love Man United, love Ryan Giggs, and obviously went on to love all the rest of United players too. Number 8. At the age of 13, I missed out on, I think it was called like England Centre of Excellence. It was at Lillishall. You know, got one of my great friends and one of our coaches inside Built to Last, Craig Peed, who, phenomenal footballer. He actually made the Centre of Excellence from Coventry. But I remember being heartbroken at the time. For any of you football lovers out there, the England Centre of Excellence, that has paid homage to like some of the greatest footballers that ever graced, you know, the English game. You know, from Michael Owen, David Beckham, Andy Cole. I think most like established England internationals made the Centre of Excellence, where they basically picked the best 16 players from that year to then have 2 years where you went to school at Lillishall, where you were pretty much a full-time footballer whilst going to school. So you can imagine what that would have done for your football development, being around the best players in the country. But unfortunately, I just missed out on the 16. But very proud to this day that I made the top 25 of the country. You know, but it would have been nice to make that. Number 9, and obviously these are a lot to do with like sport and athletics for now, and they do get a bit more interesting. I was very, very good at cross-country athletics growing up. You know, I was a regular West Midlands cross-country champion. Evolved, I suppose, from my school years, from the age of 11 to 16. It was primarily the longer distances that I was like winning Midlands championships, like everything local. I can't remember ever losing really. And then on track, I remember winning 1500s, 800s, then down to 400, because the older I got, I just didn't want to run quite as far on a track. But what was interesting during those years as well, you'd always be racing against people who obviously were training for athletics, but it was just the amount of football I was doing. I was obviously very fast, that I tended to be winning these things, even though I weren't necessarily training for it, okay? But obviously I realised then that one of my attributes was, obviously I was quite naturally fit. But yeah, and I suppose one of the things I'm proud of as well, from the age of 6, from that moment I got told all I was going to do was swim. From the age of 6 to 16, I only lost 2 races in like 10 years to anyone my own age. So really, really proud of that. But again, another example that if someone tells you can't do something, you know, if I can be pretty much unbeaten for the best part of 10 years, following someone telling you, a so-called specialist, you have bad knees, then, you know, whether you got a niggle injury, as long as your mind's strong enough, you can really turn that into a positive, you know, with your mental approach. And weirdly as well, you know, just with athletics, I was also a triple jump Midlands champion, which was mental really. I didn't even know how to do the triple jump. And I remember one of my school teachers, he says, "Oh, Kurt, someone's dropped out the triple jump. Can you do the triple jump?" And I was like, I've never even done it. And I remember doing it, and I won the Coventry Championships. And again, I think it's just because I was so fast, and obviously you're sort of jumping across rather than up. And I realised then, I suppose, you know, I was better at running across and jumping across rather than jumping up, because I was absolutely horrendous at high jump. It's probably down to my small calves, which I've been hammered about over the years. Okay. But very proud of my athletic achievements, my sporting achievements in life to date. Now, getting to a little bit of academics. Number 10 is, and I've got my partner, my friends, they ridicule me for this and think I'm absolutely like telling lies. But believe it or not, at school, I was actually pretty clever because my parents were quite strict. I remember they always made sure I got my homework done, which was always a challenge to get done, because obviously when I was at secondary school in particular, you're at secondary school, you got a lot of football around it. I was training Coventry 3 nights a week, and then I was trying to get homework done, etc. But I actually did very well. I got like, I think it was 4 A's, 2 B's, 3 C's at school, but I actually got an A in French. Right, so number 10 is got an A in French, but the embarrassing thing is I can't speak a word of it, or pretty much like bonjour, je m'appelle Kirk, you know, all the basics. But it's madness to think you actually mastered a subject, got an A, and if you took me to France now, I probably wouldn't have a clue what to say. Okay, and that, I suppose, one of the lessons in life with that is, okay, if you're truly trying to like expand your identity or master a skill set in a certain area, you can't just do something and then park it as I say with body transformation, like once you built the body, the hard part is condition it so it becomes normal. It's no different really with learning French, because deep down, I only did French because you had to do it as part of the curriculum. But looking back, if I would have had a choice of languages back then, it would have been Spanish. So my point is, because I had no real desire to learn French, and I suppose one of the reasons that I got really good at it was I remember being laughed at in my first class at school because I was probably the worst person in French. So it's one of those, I'll prove them wrong, and pretty much was top of the tree very quickly, just through sheer repetition. But I had no passion about it, and I didn't condition it as normal. So the lesson in that is, if you're going to learn something, make sure you generally have a passion for it, and two, that you condition it and you keep, practicing it. Otherwise, you'll forget it. It's just like a body. All right, number 11. Best players I've played against, football-wise. These are two absolute fucking monsters in the game, especially in England. I mean, I've played against some great players in like youth team reserves, but without question, the best player I've played against is Wayne Rooney. So I remember playing against Wayne Rooney, who was obviously Man United captain. I think he's a top goal scorer still, top goal scorer with England. And I remember I was about 17, and we got wind that this young lad from Everton was going to be playing. He was still at school at the time, and I was playing centre-back, so he was a striker. So I'm playing directly against him. And I remember the manager saying, like, they got this kid, he's going to be the next big thing. And I'm thinking, yeah, good one. And I've just come back from injury. So I was one of those players when I played that sort of, I trained really hard, but I needed a couple of games to get up to speed, because I had to prepare very well, in my mind and in my body, to really be sort of top of the game. Even though I had obviously natural talent to some degree, I wasn't like some players who could fucking have 4-8 weeks on a treatment table and then come back and probably be the best player on the pitch. So you imagine my first game back is against Wayne Rooney, and he was like playing, I always say this to friends, it was like playing against the equivalent of Mike Tyson on a football pitch. He was fast, he was powerful, just everything that Wayne Rooney was, in the first sort of 7 to 10 years of his career. Just horrible to play against, fucking destroyed me. I remember getting subbed at half time, just because he was just absolutely ran rings around me and just like bullied me, even though he was like a year younger. And it's no coincidence, about 3 months later, he scored obviously the winner against Arsenal on his debut. So phenomenal though to experience playing against someone who went on to be obviously a great legend in the game of football. And then the other player, of course, I played against was John Terry in against Chelsea reserves. Went on to be Chelsea captain, England captain. And I remember then looking, going, fucking hell, there's levels to this game. He was just head and shoulders above everyone on the pitch. Just a leader, and you just knew he was going to be destined for great things. Not saying I particularly like him as a character, but what a phenomenal footballer and a great leader, and obviously won multiple things with Chelsea, and obviously did a great job with England. Number 12, worked as a plumber for 6 years, and I'll shed this regularly throughout my story, but from the age of 20 to 26, after I obviously got the football knocked back, I think, what should I do? Chose plumbing, gas engineer, because that's safe. You'll always have money, always be able to pay your bills. But as I said, that there was nothing that caused more reactive behaviour patterns and a lack of confidence more than not doing something on a day-to-day basis that you're on this earth to do. But I suppose in a way, the blessing and the lesson from that is it's really taught me to value everything I've got now, who I've got in my life now, and where I'm going to be going moving forward. So it because of those experiences during my plumbing years, that alone I think will prevent me from getting complacent, and really drive me to be the best I can in this field, and obviously help other people do the same. With my team, with my community, etc. But yeah, they were tough years. So my advice to anyone listening to this who isn't in a job that deep down they're passionate about, or when they're weighing up the financial income they get from that in relation to the time, the energy it takes to earn that money, then life's too short. Explore another avenue. If what you're doing, you can't, it just doesn't like your energy, or it doesn't fire you up, doesn't charge you. Number 13. I again, not many people know this, but when I'd won the men's half competition in 2010, obviously that was a catalyst, and the penny drop. Follow your passion, follow your purpose. I retrained as a personal trainer, because I knew that was, if I didn't do it then, I'd never do it. Okay, so I retrained as a personal trainer, but I took a massive risk and a calculated risk, but one that I just, one way or another, knew was going to I knew I was going to make work. So after qualifying as a PT, I quit plumbing with literally about 5 hours personal training to my name. So when I tell you, like, if I didn't get business very, very quickly, I could have been in a world of shit. Literally. I could have been in a world of shit. All I said to myself at the time was, how much do I need to make to just pay my bills and just be able to live and eat? And that's why I was prepared to take the risk, even though I had like friends, family, people going, what are you doing? You're mad. What about the security of your job? And how are you going to make it work? I just think of a shit. But yeah, I literally quit with 5 hours personal training. So if anyone is listening to this or is watching this via YouTube and thinking, Kurt's had it easy, he's had great people around him, all this sort of stuff, it couldn't have started any more uphill in terms of the battle to be a success. You know, I didn't go into a gym where it was a commercial gym. I was being handpicked clients. I literally had to market raw, a couple of social media posts, sort of spreading the word as quickly as I could, and then just hope that you got good enough and people would make referrals, and that's what happened. And even more specifically than that, when I quit the job with 5 hours personal training, obviously up to that date, my vehicle for transport was actually my plumbing van from the company I worked for, which was Warmington's. So that was just part of working for the company. Because I didn't rarely use my car, because at the weekend all I was doing was getting drunk, so I actually didn't need a car because I'd be basically hungover and technically drink driving if I had a car. I just got rid of it because I weren't using it. But then obviously when you decide to be a personal trainer, you think, fuck, you need a car. So during that time I'd quit my job to be a PT. I had no car, no vehicle. So I actually had to lend one of my great friends, Danny. He had like an old spare van, which was pretty much on its last legs, just to get around, to get to the different gyms that I was working at. And I remember for the first few months, until obviously I could save a little bit of money to get a better car, it kept breaking down, and I kept being like really stressed. I remember having to get taxis to personal training gyms just to make sure that I wasn't late for clients, because obviously that would have been catastrophic. One way or another, I had to make the sessions, even if it was costing me £10-15 in a taxi, just to obviously try and build and start a business properly. So I suppose my message to that is, it doesn't matter where you start, as long as you believe in your heart that you are trying to help people in what you do, you're trying to grow, and you're doing what you're doing for the right reasons, and you believe you're on this earth to do that particular thing, then just fucking ride the storm, and lean on people if you need to. Don't be scared to ask for help. And I'm very grateful to this day for Danny for certainly lending me the car and people helping me out at that time. And then number 14, I may have shared this on number 2, but yeah, that was when I missed a men's health final call in 2009 to say I'd made the men's health final. So I'd literally made the men's health final, which obviously I later won a year later. But the reason I missed the phone call was I remember I was fitting a toilet in the job that I didn't like, and you missed the call, listened to the voice note from Claire Matthews, said, Kurt, you made the final, called them back a week later, and as I shared in number 2, it was too late. They give my place to someone else. So, big lesson in life, if you get an opportunity, a glimmer of an opportunity, jump on it. Okay, jump on it, because if not, that will slip away and someone else will take it. Okay, I suppose I'll tie number 14 with that. And then obviously, of course, I won Men's Health in 2010, which I spoke about heavily, so I won't dwell on that too much. That was a life-changing moment, of course, is a large reason why I'm here, for sure. And now we're going to get to some of the things that are a little bit more personal that you definitely wouldn't know about me unless you're one of my close friends. Number 15 was basically me topless waitering at Elton John's house the day before I actually won the men's health competition. So during the period I was plumbing, from the age of 20 to sort of 26-ish, obviously I wasn't earning that much money. Obviously I completely hated plumbing, living for the weekend. And I remember some of my friends had started doing like party hosting jobs where basically there was businesses where if you were ripped, good looking, you'd just get paid a few £100 to turn up, dish out some drinks with your top off, and then obviously you'd go and party. Okay, any excuse for a party at that age. But I remember me and my friend David getting like asked to come and do this party hosting, but they didn't tell us who it was for, obviously, until we turned up. And we turn up and it's Elton John's house. It was the day after he did like his summer ball, I think he does each year, a great charity event he does. But the problem with this was, obviously the party hosting job was the day before I was actually shooting for the Men's Health 2010 cover model competition. So really, I'm thinking, even though it was obviously, I was thinking, God, I sort of need the money. And the bonus was, okay, you're going to get put up in a hotel for the evening. I knew from a preparation standpoint, bearing in mind I'd only had 11 days to prep for that Men's Health cover model final in 2010, right? Because I'd just come back off a holiday. The last thing I needed to be doing really was at a party where there's alcohol and temptation for late night and eating shit. But I'll be really transparent. I needed the money, and I just thought this is going to stop me from having to buy a hotel for the evening, to obviously do the Men's Health competition. And in my head as well, because I'd had a little bit of help with how to prep for a shoot, one of the things they said was if you have a couple of glasses of wine before a shoot, it dries you out and you look a bit leaner the next day. So I'm thinking, okay, at these things, the temptation is to obviously drink a lot, but I thought, right, let's just be really, really disciplined, and I'll just have a glass of wine because that's going to help me look better the next day. I'm going to get a few £100 for it, and I got my hotel paid for. Okay, so I did stay sort of true to that word at this party, but it was very, very difficult. But yeah, basically, long story short, the day before I win the Men's Health, I do the shoot for the Men's Health cover model competition, I'm at Elton John's house doing topless waitering. And there were some absolute megastars there. There was like David Walliams, the comedian, Liz Hurley, Hugh Grant, obviously David Furnish, Elton John's partner. And Elton John still to this day is the one person that, especially at that stage, and I've consistently put people on a higher pedestal. He was the one person I was generally starstruck because, remember, it was only a year or two before, like Princess Diana had obviously sadly died. I remember Elton John was the one like singing at the funeral and stuff. And that was quite eye-opening to say the least. Obviously, it was a very flamboyant party. The temptation was to get absolutely levered. Thankfully, I didn't. I didn't just have one glass of wine. I had 3 glasses of wine. Luckily, I did wake up pretty ripped the next day. But yeah, lesson to anyone or any guys potentially ever, faced with a shoot, probably not the best idea to have a really late night the night before. Thankfully, I got away with it. And then this was the one out of everyone I was thinking, shall I share this? Shall I not? But I want to share with you the most embarrassing moment of my life to date. Right? The most embarrassing moment of my life to date. So again, you might be listening to this going, it's fucking consistent, relentless, discipline. Right? The pickle I got myself into this evening was I mean, even now I think, fucking Jesus, I must have been in a bit of a hole in life to actually follow through with this once I realised what was happening. So just going back to the party hosting, I'd never done any of this stuff before. And I remember I was living with my friends David and Matty at the time, and David used to do these party hosting jobs quite regularly. And someone had dropped out. And obviously, I'm known for during that period at the gym, good shape, and obviously fitted the bill for the type of people at these parties at the time, to do the topless waitering. And David said to me, he says, mate, like, someone's dropped out. Easy £300. All we got to do, we've got to go to this party. It's for John Caldwell, the obviously elite multi-millionaire business owner who owns Phones For You. He said, all we got to do is literally, there's going to be a handful of us, is like walk his wife in at the time. It's a 40th birthday, and they're just going to sing happy birthday. We just need to basically turn up looking good, and then we can party. And so I'm thinking, it sounds too good to be true here. Like, what's the catch? And he said, no, trust me, all we got to do, we just at £300 and then we can get drunk, and there's going to be celebrities there, it'd be good fun, So I'm thinking, okay, cool. Anyway, so it's about 2.5 hour drive away. I remember turning up, obviously I'm completely oblivious to this type of world at that stage of my life. And I turn up at John Caldwell, it's like practically a castle. He's got a helicopter, that he's just landed in. Massive marquee, God knows how much that party cost. And we turn up, and we're in the car. Obviously, they've got someone who's directing us to the car park. And I'm just with David in the car, and someone winds down the window and said, "Oh, who are you guys?" And David went, "Oh, we're with so-and-so, I can't remember the company." And they went, "Oh, so you're the dancers?" So my fucking heart sank. I'm thinking, like, dancing. Anyone who knows me, I'm not a very good dancer, and that's being polite. So I'm literally like, picture the scene for anyone who's watched like Only Fools and Horses. You know, you've got like Dowboy who stitched up Rodney consistently. Okay, that was the moment. I was like Rodney, he was like Dowboy. It'll be okay, you know, just roll with it. So I'm literally cringing, thinking, fuck, I'm 2.5 hours from home, so I can't even go back because David was driving, or unless I get a very expensive cab. So anyway, we park up, and then obviously we meet the bosses of this dancing company. And I shit you not, we're stood there, like, and we're getting our instructions, and they say, right, we're going to go in now and show you your podiums. You know, we're going to show you the podiums, like where the podiums are for the go-go dancers, right? So I'm thinking, like, what? First of all, what's a fucking go-go dancer? And like, 1, I can't dance. 2, a fucking podium, right? And then 3, to make matters worse, like, for her birthday, the John Caldwell's partner, Diana Ross was going to be coming in singing Happy Birthday, okay? So this is like a global superstar. I've never danced. And then I'm faced with the prospect of like, I'm going to dance on a fucking podium as a go-go dancer, which I didn't even know what a go-go dancer was at the time. But and then look, I just thought, what am I going to do here? This is horrendous. And I could have absolutely destroyed David. Even now I laugh about it when we talk about this. I'm like talk about being stitched up to the highest degree. But yeah, very, very long story short, I sort of cracked on with the night. I thought the only way I can possibly face this is to get absolutely mortaled. And yeah, but I just didn't, even with the amount of drink I was drinking, there was only so drunk you were going to get, just because I was like so cringing, going, what the fuck am I doing just for a few £100? And I think maybe the money I earned, I probably spent that on drink when I actually was able to like finish doing what we were doing. So yeah, without question, the most embarrassing moment of my life. And because I was the most ripped, I was the person that actually had to bring the cake out while Diana Ross was singing Happy Birthday for John Caldwell's partner. So yeah, like we all do stupid shit, and I don't really know where the life lesson is in that is. I suppose the life lesson is don't drink too much. Be careful what your friends say if you smell they're talking shit, and definitely don't do drugs. Then the next one, again, just getting a bit more back to sort of my fitness background. I've been a sponsored athlete with Grenade, My Protein, and Better Body. So 3 great brands, great times with Grenade. Obviously, it's fantastic to see what they're doing now. Al Barrett, absolute monster of a businessman. One thing I really respect about Al Barrett is, looking back now, even though I didn't really understand business at the time, was how much money he pumped into marketing. It was all about creating attention, but in the right way. And it's crazy how their products have evolved from a fat burner, which it was at the time, obviously now to a protein chocolate bar and shakes, etc. But yeah, very good times, great friends that I made, and travelled the world, great experiences. My Protein as well, very grateful for my time at My Protein. Loved the staff, loved the people. Again, really good memories to be part of a great brand. And Better Bodies as well, they were super professional, elite Swedish clothing brand. And again, all these companies collectively, I was able to travel the world, meet great people. Obviously it built some positive exposure, but yeah, really good memories. One memory in particular, I suppose, I'm not too proud of, number 18, is missing a flight back from Vegas after a Mr. Olympia Expo. So one of the big expos in the fitness industry was the Mr. Olympia Expo. Obviously, never competed at these things. They were all massive, jacked up guys, and I had no interest in stepping on stage. But I remember being at this Mr. Olympia Expo, and I chose not to go with Grenade that year because I wanted to do my own shoots and shoot with some good guys, and I didn't want to be pinned to a stand for 3 days, to be really transparent. And obviously the plus from that was I could do what I want. The negative from that is obviously I wasn't nowhere near as disciplined and pretty much uncontrollable at the time, especially when I was socialising. So I remember I'd booked my flight back on a Sunday for, say, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but little realising at the time that the best days probably in Vegas are the Sunday pool parties. So I'll turn up at a pool party. I think the likes of like Dorian Yates, big famous bodybuilders are there, and then obviously it's packed with women. I'm single at the time, and I convinced myself, I'm just going to have a couple of vodkas and then I'm going to leave the party after 2 hours. Obviously, a couple of vodkas never quite happened. It turned into the best part of a bottle. Before you know it, you're absolutely steaming, and you've got 2 decisions, right? Do I make my flight, right? Or do I somehow justify in my mind that I'm going to be able to talk BA round whoever it was I was flying with, and they're going to be able to change my flight? But I basically had a decision, take the flight or women and drink, and I chose women and drink. And obviously didn't turn out too well. Very expensive party, because what should have been me getting on a flight at 4 p.m. or 4 or 5 p.m., I basically stayed for 2 hours at the party later, because the actual beach party finished at like 6. So basically, the most expensive party in my life was that Vegas party, because it cost me a very expensive flight the next morning. And what should have been a direct flight from Vegas to London was I then had to, the only flight available the next day was Vegas to Toronto to Philadelphia, or the other way around, and then to Vegas. So then to London, sorry. And it was literally, I was on a plane for about 20 hours sweating, horrendous. So just be careful how much you drink if you've got flights back from Vegas, for sure. Number 19, I don't regret much in life, but this is something a little bit more personal. When anyone who's been familiar with the fitness industry for a long time should remember this guy. But Greg Plitt is probably the most famous cover model ever known in the industry. Like, he had, I think, over 200-300 covers, had a multi-million-pound business, even back then. I mean, this was like 10 years ago. And my biggest regret, number 19, is not going out for a drink with Greg Plitt. I remember I built rapport with him very, very quickly when I got introduced to him at an exhibition in Birmingham, Body Power. And we just hit it off, because I think he just liked how transparent, down to earth I was. I gave him my number. I said, look, if you want to go out tonight, just give me a ring. And he said, yeah, cool, man. He was jet lagged. He said he was shattered that night. But I remember receiving a call the next evening, and I'd just been back in Coventry from Birmingham. I'd just pigged out, binged, because I'd starved myself again for another exhibition, and I was really bloated and tired. And this random number calls me. It's Greg Plitt, and he says, hey, Kirk, it's Greg. I'm like, okay, Greg Plitt. Okay, cool. He was like an idol at the time. And he says, do you want to go out tonight in Birmingham? And I said, I haven't got a flight tomorrow. He said, yeah, I got a flight at 4 or 5 a.m. So what? I'll just get straight on the flight. And it's just one of those moments, because he sadly is not here now. He had, tragically died in a horrific accident, about 8 to 10 years ago. But it's just one of those moments you think, God, he was like the pinnacle at the time of what you're trying to be as a fitness model. But more importantly, looking back, he had a great business model, because he had like an online business, and obviously it was super scalable. He's helping loads of people around the world. And what that would have done, just to share some insights with the number one on the planet. And again, it's just another example in life that, whether it's to do with a friend, a business challenge, a business opportunity, or just something in life that, all right, might not be the safe option or the sensible option, but follow your gut sometimes if you think, you know what, I might never get this moment again, okay? Number 20, I once had a picnic, sandwiches and crisps, with the absolute legend, Sir Richard Branson. I was very lucky to go to British Virgin Islands a few years ago with my great friend, Mr. Ryan West. He's one of our Built to Last clients, but one of my greatest friends, and obviously great friends with the Bransons. He's worked heavily on Mosquito Island, Necker Island, etc. But yeah, I remember going to British Virgin Islands, like randomly getting picked up on his yacht by him and his family. But it was a very surreal moment that he spent a couple of days with Richard and his family, and but just shows you, even at that level, you still can be super, super successful and down to earth. We were literally sat on Mosquito Island having crisps and sandwiches. And obviously he's asking me about my business, and we're just spending time with his family. So that just showed me as well that you still can be incredibly successful, but unbelievably down to earth. And for me, I'd love to see Sir Richard again if I'm ever with Ryan. I think great man, but his family were absolutely incredible people. And yeah, it just showed me that you can be successful with, without ever, forgetting your roots and just doing normal stuff. Number 21. For those of you boxing fans, I remember once having a race with Derek Chisora and Tom Little. Tom's obviously slightly lesser known, but Derek Chisora, obviously a big name in the history of British boxing. I'd just done about an hour and a half session with Don Charles, and he said, I'm going up the track to do some running with Derek Chisora. And Tom, and I just thought, okay, fuck this, I'm going to go with him. And me being my competitive nature, I wanted to race him. So we were doing some sprints. I think I left him for dead. I was about 10, 15 metres above him. And yeah, basically pulled my hamstring. And I think I've done that a few times, whenever I've tried to go back into football or do stupid stuff, and realising my body isn't quite what it used to be, especially when it comes to the sprints now. But I was smoking for the first 50. Number 22, I once shot a men's fitness cover shoot, literally with no sleep, hungover. It wasn't intentional. I remember being at a party in London, and one of my friends said, enter this model competition. You can win £500 or £1,000 cash and vouchers. And I'm like, mate, I've got a men's fitness cover shoot the next day. He's like, no, it'll be fine. Just turn up, take your money, win a voucher, and then you can leave. Then I turn up. Again, there's alcohol there. There was an Irish girl who was like helping run the event. She was very attractive. I fancied her, and then sort of drank a little bit too much. Obviously, stayed out a lot later than I probably should have. But yeah, not proud of myself. So yeah, I remember it as the cover shoot where I'm actually on a beach. I remember, even to this day, when I look at that cover, I was so hungover that I was so hungover I could barely keep my eyes open because it was in the sea. And that's probably out of all my covers the one that I'm least pleased with, just because my eyes were sore, I was tired, I looked flat, and the preparation weren't quite on point, nor was the discipline back then. 2023. The next one, I fought, and this is something I'm very, very proud of, and this is another thing that's shaped my character and resilience. I fought a charity boxing fight with a full bicep rupture at the O2 Arena, the Indigo O2 Arena, against Rogan O'Connor, a good friend of mine as well. He was about 17 kg heavier, but I tore my bicep off the bone about 7 weeks before the fight. And I mean, I've got a surgeon telling me that the last thing in the world you should be doing is doing a fight with a full bicep rupture. But it's one of those moments in your life where you just think, you know what? It's just testing me. It's just adversity. I want to demonstrate to clients that, again, anything you put your mind to, you can at least get through this. You know, whether I was going to win or not was a different matter. But I tore it off the bone 7 weeks before the fight. It was my left hand, so I couldn't even jab that. You know, I couldn't even spar, let alone like jab. You know, stumbled my way for a couple of spars close to the fight. But yeah, I did the fight against Rogan. Didn't win. It was over 4 2-minute rounds, but just thankfully I didn't get knocked out the first couple of rounds because he was that big and I couldn't jab. But nearly had him the last round. He was hanging on for dear life. And Rogan, if you ever listen to this, that is unfinished business, my friend. All right, I had one arm when I fought you, and there we are. I've not put that to bed yet. We need to rerun that at some point with me with 2 arms, and you can come in whatever weight you want. But the lesson in that was that you can do anything you want if you really put your mind to it. All right. Next one, food. Just sort of share some things on food. Foods I hate: sprouts, leeks, celery. Tastes like shit. Favorite foods: my mum's roast. Nothing beats my mum's roast dinner. It's like a mountain. Causes shockwaves on social media when she stacks up that plate full of gravy. It's absolutely tremendous. I love a big plate, especially when it comes to a roast. I suppose more recently, what follows that up, if I went to have a roast, I love, again, just a couple of nice burgers, double burgers, cheese, gherkins, just loads of chips. And I do love an Indian curry if I was ever like parking calories to the side for a second. But I probably touch Indian curries maybe once, twice a year, because I think those and Chinese is another thing I was fond of in my early years. Horrific if you're trying to drop body fat and stay lean. Next one, traits I hate in people: laziness, liars, talkers, and people who are stuck up. I can't stand people who look down on people. And obviously a lot of this would have come from my background of not necessarily starting from an affluent background and nothing really being handed to me. But I think irrelevant to your status, if you're successful, treat people with respect. People are human beings at the end of the day. And I think that's why, you know, I have the relationship I do and such phenomenal clients and team and friends that I do, because we're all cut from a similar cloth. I think vibe attracts your tribe. You know, we're very honest people, and we never look down on people, even as much as you grow and create success and status. And then, laziness, liars, talkers. I just can't stand people who are full of shit, tell lies to themselves and to other people. There's nothing like drains trust faster. Traits I love in people, I suppose it's sort of the opposite really. I love honesty. I love straight talkers, very black and white characters. You probably guessed on this podcast. Driven. I like driven people. High energy, like funny and dry as well. I love people who are stupid, one-liners. I'm not really someone who finds jokes funny, but I love one-liners, dry. People who can just sort of like say something and you think, fucking hell, they didn't just say that. And it just makes you laugh. People who don't take themselves too seriously, you know. And on the flip side to that, I suppose, to contradict that, I love people who are obsessive and passionate. People who've achieved like unbelievable things and you think, how did they achieve that? Just through sheer passion and obsessiveness, you know? Last couple, people I'd love to meet. In the past, Jim Rohn. For those of you personal development sort of gurus or people who are interested in that, Jim Rohn for me, I know he's Tony Robbins' mentor. I think he's one of the best speakers that's ever lived. He's influenced the way I think, influenced the way I speak and how I look at the world, for sure. Just a great, great human being, has made a massive difference to so many people's lives, and obviously has helped, been a cog in the legend that is Tony Robbins, being an absolute machine and carrying the baton, I suppose. So in the past, it would have been Jim Rohn for sure. More presently, I'd love to meet Tony Robbins at some point in person for sure, and I'll make that happen. From a sporting perspective, obviously some of them, obviously a lot more sport related because of obviously my passion for sport and health and fitness, etc. Roy Keane, Sir Alex Ferguson. I'd actually love to meet them together. Two of the greatest leaders that have ever lived, but I'd love to meet them together. Two phenomenal leaders, and I think you could learn so much from how they think and their thought processes and what made them successful for so long. Okay, because I really believe when they obviously weren't a part of United, it's no coincidence that the leadership at that club now has just gone to shit. So I'd love to meet them. Cristiano Ronaldo, I'd love to meet him just from a sheer like mindset perspective and just to get into his world like emotionally, just to really understand what makes that man's tick. And I just can't help but feel his aura and influence rub off on you. And then just because I love my boxing too, I'd love to have a spar with Canelo. I know he's lost recently, but I think he's an amazing boxer. I love watching him, and I'd love to have a boxing spar with him. Yeah, I think he's phenomenal. And even though it's completely off the cuff, and obviously not necessarily as inspirational now, but I'd love to meet Van Damme, because obviously I think he played Jean-Claude Van Damme, just because, again, he played such a massive role in me, wanting six-pack and to be, look a certain way. I think if I'd never watched those movies, would I be here now, with a passion to obviously help people look good as well. Then lastly, some again, a bit more related to my mission, really. I just thought I'd share with you, what legacy do I want to leave? And for me, that the legacy I want to leave is that anything is possible when you believe in yourself, remove limitations, and live with confidence inside and out. I want to be one of the most relatable success stories the world's ever seen, that really help squeeze out every ounce of belief and remove limitations. If people know in their heart they can look better, feel better, and just sort of tick all the boxes in life, And as I've shared with you today, and a lot of vulnerable points there, and a lot of like really honest points. No one's perfect in life. A lot of people, including myself, as I've shared, have done some stupid stuff, drank too much, ate too much, surrounded themselves with the wrong people, got themselves in the wrong situation sometimes. But it doesn't matter where you start. It doesn't matter what bumps in the road, what ups and downs you have, what flaws you have, what mistakes you've made, as long as you learn from them and grow from them. And it's my absolute mission to help anyone listening to this podcast look the way they want to, feel the way they want to, but more importantly, express themselves, and to do that, I genuinely believe you need confidence inside and out to do that. Okay, so that is it. That is it, my friends. Thank you so much for listening. But as I said at the start of this, this for me is going to be the most transparent podcast out there. And yes, I'll talk about training, mindset, performance, because ultimately that's what you guys have probably listened to it for. But I want to sort of be a bit random from time to time too. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.